Peer pressure affects all ages, not just kids. Adult peer pressure is real. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Masks and Men, and today we are going to talk about peer pressure in romantic relationships.
Tyra, the creative. That's right. The creative. Tyra, the creative. Hey, the creative.
I am so excited to be back for another episode of Masks and Men. You guys have been loving this series on my channel, so I really wanted to make sure that I came back because I have been doing a lot of skits. If you missed Spooktober, make sure you go back and watch some of those funny skits. I had so much fun filming them, but now it's time to relax and unwind with some wine, of course, and talk about peer pressure in romantic relationships. So the wine that we will be drinking today is Stella Rosso, which is from the Stella Rosa brand. And if you guys have been watching my videos, you already know that I love Stella Rosa. So this is a red wine and it is semi-sweet. Grapes of our delicious Stella Rosa Rosso are harvested from beautiful vineyards located in the Italian countryside. A refreshing red with flavors of strawberry and red berries, served chilled with fresh fruit, cheese, spicy cuisine, and desserts. Let's go ahead and grab our wine and grab our masks and get into the video. Virtual cheers. I think any wine that Stella Rosa comes out with, I am going to love. Oh my gosh. So if this is your first time watching a Mask and Men episode, all we do is drink wine, put on the mask, and we relax, and we basically have girl talk. So the mask I am going to be indulging in today is the BellaIndulgent Rose Hip Mud Mask. And this mask is good for soothing and softening the skin. I've been wearing a lot of makeup lately, so let's soothe and soften the skin. In the comments below, let me know some of your favorite masks, whether they're homemade, DIY, or if you get them from the store, because I'm always looking for a new mask to try, and also some wine. You know your girl likes sweet wine. So let's go ahead and get into our talk. I really wanted to talk about peer pressure in relationships because it's not really talked about, and it's something that I dealt with heavily early on when I was first figuring out how to date. And I would say that I encountered the most peer pressure in relationships when I was in high school. But first, let's actually talk about what peer pressure is. Peer pressure is just influence from your peers. And yes, adults can be affected by peer pressure. Peer pressure affects all ages. So there's actually 3 different scenarios that I can think of that actually happened to me when I was influenced by negative peer pressure. And it had to do when I was in my very first relationship ever, like my first real relationship. I don't really call it a real one because I was in high school. I was actually going to 9th grade when I met this guy. The first red flag that I had was the fact that he was peer pressuring me into having sex in high school. And y'all, I remember it like it was yesterday. So he wanted to have sex because all of his friends were having sex, and I was like, no, I'm not doing that. Like, that's stupid. I don't want to have sex. I was a very confident high schooler, which I'm so proud of myself about, and I really stood firm in what I believed for the most part. But he ended up writing a letter, and in that letter he was like, I really love you. Let's have sex. If we don't have sex, then we're going to break up because I can't be with you if we're not having sex. And in my head, I was like, bye, break up with me. What are you talking about? But something that also happened was he started talking to our friends to get into my head, and everyone was saying the same thing. So long story short, we ended up having sex, and I hated it. It was the worst decision I ever made in my entire life, and it's something that I regretted for a long time. But I believe that everything is either a blessing or a lesson. So I was able to learn from that experience, and I really started to notice how peer pressure can sneak up on you in many different ways. So the second red flag that showed up when I was in that relationship was when I wanted to do the National Student Exchange Program. And during that program, I would go to another state or another country depending on which program I wanted to do, either national or international. So I decided to do national, and I wanted to go to New York, New Jersey area. And he was so against it. By this time, I was already in college. So we had been together for 4 years at this time. And he just said if I went to New Jersey, then he would break up with me and all of this kind of stuff, saying that we had plans to live in Louisiana, and Louisiana is so much better, and I don't understand why you want to be there and all this kind of stuff. And in my mind, I'm like, okay, I'm in college. I really want to do this. This is something that I'm super excited about. Let me go ahead and do it. So I did. And we ended up breaking up, but it wasn't because of that. It was because of the absolute last thing. It was the final straw for me, amongst other things. But as far as peer pressure goes, I crossed Delta in spring of 2014. And after I crossed, like, he came to my probate and all this stuff, but after I crossed Delta, he said that I had changed. He was saying, this isn't like you. You weren't this type of person before you crossed, and you know, all of that kind of stuff. And in the middle of that conversation, I said, you know what? I'm done. I cannot do this no more, because I am not a different person. I am growing as a person, and I'm growing into myself. You knew me in high school, and now I'm in college. I'm finally spreading my wings and doing things that I love to do. And joining Delta was one of the best experiences of my entire college career. So move around, boy. First, I want to break down peer pressure. Peer pressure can be positive or negative, and then it also breaks down into 4 different types: spoken, unspoken, indirect, and direct peer pressure. And the peer pressure that I experienced in my romantic relationship when I was in high school was both spoken and direct peer pressure, because he sent me the letter. Well, that was kind of indirect, but it was still spoken. He sent me the letter, and then he would say things to me about myself that were contradictory to what I believed about myself, trying to prove a point as to why I should not be doing the things that I am doing. Now, growing up in the South, you encounter a lot of negativity based on people loving you and trying to keep you safe because of their fears. So they try to cast their fears onto you. So I really think that that was more so what was going on than manipulation and all of that kind of thing. That's why I'm not saying that it was more so him trying to manipulate me, but he genuinely cared, and it was just his fears that he was projecting onto me. And peer pressure can have many different effects on you. And I started to notice that peer pressure affected me in these ways later on, like in college and after college. And I want to say that peer pressure is not only in relationships, and it's not only as a child. You can encounter peer pressure as an adult. And peer pressure can come from social media, work, and also your family. So you can literally get peer pressured from everywhere. And some effects of peer pressure that I have personally experienced are low self-esteem. When I was in grade school, I had low self-esteem. I've also encountered a loss of appetite. For example, being in high school, I would never eat lunch during my 9th grade and 10th grade year, because all of my friends were using unspoken peer pressure and they would not eat lunch, you guys. So I would just sit there super duper hungry and like, well, my friends aren't eating, so I obviously can't eat, because then I'm gonna look like a fatty, or like, you know, I just started having all of these thoughts and thinking all of these things due to unspoken peer pressure. And also my boyfriend at the time, he wouldn't eat lunch, so I was like, no one around me is eating lunch, I'm not gonna eat lunch, even though I was so hungry and I would have basketball practice after school. Peer pressure can also lead to you feeling a loss of control and starting to go with the flow, just like the lunch thing that I was talking about. I was just going with the flow. Like, your girl was hungry, but I wasn't eating, okay? And the biggest thing, which is something that my therapist has talked about a lot since I've been going to therapy, is starting to distrust yourself and not listening to your gut and your intuition. And I think that's one of the most harmful things that you can do, because if you don't trust yourself, you can't trust anybody else. And the most important thing is to trust yourself, because only then will you know the best things that are for you in your life. So let's talk about this mask for a second. I love the way it smells. It smells just like roses, like it's a very floral mask, but it is starting to burn around my nostril area, and that happens a lot with masks. If you know why I start to burn in this area, if it's because of sensitive skin or whatever it may be, let me know in the comments how I can stop that from happening, because the mask is starting to dry around here, but around my cheeks area, I still have like a couple more minutes to go until I wash it off. Now, I do want to touch on positive peer pressure as well in this video. Even though it's about peer pressure in relationships, I have had experiences with positive peer pressure in my current relationship. As I said at the beginning, peer pressure is literally just influence from your peers. So in my current relationship, I have been peer pressured into following my dreams, following my guts. I have been peer pressured into meditation and learning more about myself, peer pressured into actually going to therapy, and all of these things are very positive. So peer pressure is normally associated with being negative, but there's also positive peer pressure. And I don't want to talk about peer pressure as if it is only negative, because it isn't. If you're watching this video and you're thinking in the comments, how do I know if I'm being peer pressured positively or negatively? In both cases, when I'm feeling peer pressured, I feel a sense of uneasiness, whether it's positive or negative, but there's a difference in that feeling. When I am feeling positively peer pressured, it's a feeling of uneasiness, but it is positive. Like, it's like, oh, I should do that, but I'm afraid. And in the negative peer pressure sense, I feel that sense of uneasiness, but I feel like I am losing myself, but I have to do it. I feel obligated to do this because someone is telling me that it is what I should do. So you can use that as a basic gauge to determine whether or not you're being peer pressured in the first place, and then deciphering whether or not it is positive peer pressure or negative peer pressure. Even though I'm talking about peer pressure specifically in romantic relationships, as I said, you can encounter peer pressure from every which way, whether it's platonic relationships, romantic relationships, or just people who you see on social media. And I think one of the most important things is to make sure that you can identify that peer pressure and implement ways in which you can overcome that negative peer pressure or implement that positive peer pressure into your daily life. My face is about to be soft and supple, you hear me? Okay, you guys, so it has been about 15 minutes and I am going to go wash this mask off, and then I'm going to show you guys my after results. And we are back, you guys. My face is nice and baby soft smooth. While this mask was not super duper stripping, I do want to add some moisture back into my skin. I just picked up this jelly booster from Ulta, and it is by the brand Truly, and it is for hyperpigmentation, but it's an oil, and you guys, this stuff smells so good. So I love to put this a little bit on my face after I do a mask. And to be bougie, I like to roll it in with my rose quartz roller that I also picked up from Ulta. And the jelly potion can be used on your entire body. I typically just use it on my face because that's the only place where I have hyperpigmentation. But if you had hyperpigmentation on other parts of your body, then this can be used anywhere. It's called their body potion. I like to use the smaller side of my roller underneath the eye. And if you've never used a roller before, I thought you had to like chill it, but I keep my roller inside of my makeup bag and it's always cool because it's made out of rose quartz. Now that my face is all moisturized and ready for the rest of the day, I want to leave you guys with a few tips on overcoming peer pressure. So, what should I do if I have encountered peer pressure, or if I want to equip myself with tools to help combat negative peer pressure? I think one of the biggest things that you should do is to sit with yourself and get to know your own inner voice. When I was growing up, that's not something that I really did. I didn't know what meditation was. I didn't know what trusting your gut truly was. So getting to know yourself will definitely help you pinpoint whether or not this is something that you truly want to do, something that you feel comfortable with doing, or something that is completely against your core values. Which brings me to my second point. Know your core values, and you don't have to have them memorized. Write them down until it becomes something that you can just say. If someone asks you, what do you value out of life? You should know, I value this, those types of things. And that will also help you to navigate peer pressure and knowing, okay, this is completely against what I believe, and this is within the realm of the things that I hold dear to my heart. And then from there, it'll be easier to talk to yourself and say, okay, Tyra, no, this is not something that we need to do because it goes directly against what we truly believe. And that will also help you with saying no to peer pressure, because honestly, you guys, it is hard to say no to peer pressure, especially in a romantic relationship, because you automatically think, okay, this person loves me, this person wants the best for me, but sometimes what that person wants for you is not the best for you, and that's something that you also need to keep in mind. And if you don't know if you've been affected by peer pressure, some of the side effects of negative peer pressure can be a loss of appetite, aggression, and you have no idea where it came from, frustration, just being aggravated with yourself and people around you, and constantly thinking of how you can please people, how you can fit in, or how you can make sure that everyone around you is happy. Now, Now, that's not always gonna lead to you being affected by peer pressure, but it's a good place to start. If you have been affected by peer pressure or know somebody that has, then share this video with them because it may be able to help them out. Also, let me know down in the comments what you do to overcome peer pressure because you never know who you can help. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure that you give it a like, and if you are not already subscribed to the channel, make sure you hit that big red subscribe button down below, and make sure your notifications are on so you can get all of the alerts anytime your girl posts any new content. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Now let me finish my wine.